Is it worth doing a dual degree of chemical engineering and chemistry? Hi, I'm going to college next year and I was looking at chemical engineering. However, here in Spain, we don't have real job options for anything related to science and investigation or have really low salaries. Will doing a dual degree make my chances higher when going abroad? I'm planning to go somewhere like the UK. So the question is chemistry necessary and will it make a difference when I'm applying for a job in the future? I'm interested in vaccines, also hydrogen, and even nuclear fusion. Wow, lots of really cool interests. So you say here in Spain, we don't have real job options for anything related to science and investigation, or they have really low salaries. Be honest, I don't know what it's like in Spain, but you said you wanted to go abroad. And I don't even know how I would go about doing this from a general level. When I pick a university in Spain, when I pick a university abroad, I don't know much about the universities in Spain and whether or not the degrees transfer, but I'll answer this from a question of chemical engineering and chemistry. I'd say that if you want to work in chemistry and you want to do stuff like vaccines and hydrogen and nuclear fusion, that sounds like you're going to be doing research and you're probably going to have to go on to grad school to go that route and become like a doctorate in chemistry. So there's a little bit of school ahead of you for that. And if you're interested in doing that, then I think you could definitely get your PhD in chemistry and have a great career doing that. And you can do stuff in sciences. And I don't know which countries to go to. I'd say that in the US, a decent bit of people come to the US for their education, and then they'll get their graduate degrees in the US, and then they'll get their visas to stay in the US, and that's one path. I can't really speak to the UK. What I will say though is if you're interested in chemical engineering and you want to do chemical engineering, do you need to get the dual degree with chemistry? I don't think so. If you want to do chemical engineering, I do not think you also need a chemistry undergrad double major degree. It's just not relevant. Well, it's relevant, but it's not required because if you're going to get a chemical engineering degree, you're going to take a lot of the basic chemistry courses, and then you're going to take upper level chemical engineering electives. So you'd have a decent foundation in chemistry already from the chemical engineering degree, and that chemistry degree you don't really need it to work as a chemical engineer. Would it help? Sure. I think it would help to the extent that it helps you understand chemistry and be a better chemical engineer, but it won't necessarily help you get more jobs. The chemical engineering company wants to hire you because you have a hire you for as being a chemical engineer because you have a degree in chemical engineering. So that's a difficult question, and there's a lot there. I say that hydrogen, nuclear fusion, you can work for there's a lot of companies like I don't know about the nuclear side, but I know that you have Mitsubishi. It's pretty big in the hydrogen space. There's a lot of we call them OEMs in the nuclear hydrogen world that you can work for. I try to look at who those OEMs are and see where they're located and where they hire people and maybe kind of look at that whenever you're trying to look at where to work after graduation. And then maybe also go on LinkedIn and look up people that work for those companies that work in chemistry related roles and see, okay, do they have engineering degrees? Do they have chemistry degrees? Do they have doctorates in chemistry? And then you can kind of get a better picture of what people that are doing what you want to do have as an educational background. That's kind of the way I go about seeing it. So, um, yeah, lots to unpack there. But is it worth doing a dual degree of chemical engineering and chemistry from a general perspective? I'd say no. I think it's one or the other. And if I were picking one or the other, I'd pick chemical engineering just because I'm an engineer, and I think that the chemical engineering route is a good way to go without having to go to grad school. But then either way, you still could end up going to grad school, get your master's in chemical engineering. Another thing that I know people that do this is people get undergraduate degrees. I know somebody that's doing this right now actually that she has an undergraduate degree in chemistry and now she's getting her master's in chemical engineering. That is another way to go. And I'll have to ask her if she is happy about that she had the chemistry background, or if she wishes she had the chemical engineering background first. I'll have to I will ask her and I'll report back on the next episode of the podcast. But what I'd say is I do see a lot of people going from chemistry undergrads to chemical engineering masters, and they have to do a little bit of makeup work, a little bit of basic stuff to kind of get caught up, and then get them prerequisites to get into chemical engineering master's programs. But I mean, you can go that route as well. So yeah, lots of rambling there. I'm sorry about that, but I think that there's there's a lot to unpack here, and it's definitely a good question. And I think there's just multiple things you have to take into consideration. So I hope that you listen to what I had to say, and you take these things into consideration whenever you're trying to make your decision. But I would go chemical engineering, and then if you wanted to go work for an OEM, you could either work there with your chemical engineering degree or get a master's in chemical engineering to do that. I think that most of the things that you want to do with chemistry, you can get there most of the companies that you described that you want to work for, you can start working for them with a chemical engineering degree. So
Thank you so much for watching this segment of the Engineering Success Podcast. If you liked it, make sure to check out the other videos down below that are recommended to you. And if you really like the podcast, make sure to subscribe right down there in the middle. We really appreciate it. It's free to you and helps us a lot out. And last but not least, the best way to help the show grow is to comment down below. So leave your comment if you have any thoughts about this segment. Thanks.
I ain't chasing payments, still playing in the basement while I'm working on arrangements. They heard the kid in 50 countries, thank God that's amazing. But I'd rather thank Spotify, they put me on the station.